When we went to Pyongyang and we talked about missiles, we talked about MIAs and POWs, we talked about hunger, we talked about a number of subjects, but about the missiles, because that was, the development of missiles was a national security issue of concern. They said, look, we just make these to sell. You want to buy them? We'll sell them to you. Ma'am.
Do you have any thoughts on Pompeo going to North Korea, and do you support him as the person to represent the U.S. in these talks with North Korea?
Well, I'm always in favor of, as they say, jaw, 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 rather than war, war, war. So if the president is going to meet with Kim Jong-un, it's important to have preliminary meetings. I hope that Pompeo would not be confirmed as Secretary of State. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I want to ask someone to follow up on the North Korea talks. Obviously, those are moving a little closer with the revelation of Pompeo going over there. What's your confidence level or skepticism level of those talks right now, and what are realistic expectations? You know, about a month and a half out from a possible meeting. What are realistic expectations?
Well, let me just say that as one of the few members of Congress who has been to Pyongyang, I did a number of years ago as a member of the Intelligence Committee. It's a frightening place. It's a place that is, when I've seen poverty throughout throughout the world, as an appropriator and visited the world to see our initiatives and how helpful they might be in the alleviation of poverty, the eradication of disease. When I went to North Korea, I saw a poverty of spirit that just was mind-boggling in many respects, and it's a difficult place. Our purpose then was to say, we want to talk about MIAs and POWs. We want you to stop proliferating, selling your missile technology, issues like that, checking in on the hunger situation, because their people were starving, even though their motto was self-reliance. They couldn't feed their own people. And so what they told us then, and so what's relevant to now, is they said, hey, we just sell these this technology for money. You want to buy them? We'll sell them to you. And so what my guidance from there to the current situation is the capability of the North Koreans to create either the technology for a weapon, the miniaturization of it, the capacity to launch it, and the intention to do so is something that we need to know as much about as possible. But in addition to that, they're proliferators. And this is what I keep saying to the administration. They are proliferators. So the danger is not just what they might do. The danger is who they might sell one element of that to, which might be enough to endanger the world even further. So hopeful conversation. Maybe Kim Jong-un is ready to change. I wouldn't be too trustworthy of it, but certainly open to it. And what would be success if at least the communication were increased, and there could be some way to stop what could follow if left undeterred, North Korea were to continue what it's doing, which is perhaps other countries having access to the technology, the scientific know-how, the launch capacity, and dangerously the intention.
ICBM launch with some cultural performance. I just wondered, you live in San Francisco, which seems to be on the verge of being threatened now by North Korea's ballistic missile program. Do you have confidence in the administration's approach on handling this issue? And if not, what do you think that they should change up?
Well, let me just say that I'm one of the few members of Congress who's been to Pyongyang, to the capital. Many members have been to Panmunjom, the border, but I've been to the capital, and I see how degenerate the administration of North Korea is. Not when Kim Jong-un, when Kim Jong-il, his father, was president, was when I was there. the poverty of spirit, the just the horror of it all. People starving, and they call their philosophy self-reliance, while their people are starving, while they save the food for themselves and not for children whom they don't consider productive, or seniors whom they don't consider productive. I feel shameful for the diplomats who see a better life outside, and yet they allow this closed society to deprive people of even sustenance while they live the high life. So I'm concerned about really South Korea because they have proximity and the threats of Kim Jong-un. And I think this is my main concern. And I would hope that the administration would be acting in a more responsible way, and maybe they'll get to that place. But here's my problem about Kim Jong-un, and I've expressed this to the president of South Korea when he was here a couple of weeks ago. When we went to Pyongyang and we talked about missiles, we talked about MIAs and POWs, we talked about hunger, we talked about a number of subjects, but about the missiles, because that was, the development of missiles was a national security issue of concern. They said, look, we just make these to sell. You want to buy them? We'll sell them to you. So when they do their road show, when they do their launches and all the rest, it's not just to show what they may or may not have. And there's not complete certainty as to whether they have miniaturized the weapon to go the distance. But it's about who they might want to sell it to. Maybe not an intercontinental ballistic missile, but some of their other missile technology. So I'm concerned about North Korea for many reasons. But one of them, in addition to most of what you've heard, is that North Korea could be a proliferator. And all of these demonstrations of strength are really a roadshow for them to sell to a rogue nation or lone wolf or whatever, whoever, some very dangerous technology. So this requires the most mature leadership and knowledgeable appraisal of what our options are there. That was it. Thank you all very much. But here's my problem about Kim Jong-un, and I've expressed this to the president of South Korea when he was here a couple of weeks ago. When we went to Pyongyang and we talked about missiles, we talked about MIAs and POWs, we talked about hunger, we talked about a number of subjects, but about the missiles, because that was, the development of missiles was a national security issue of concern. They said, look, we just make these to sell. You want to buy them? We'll sell them to you. So